Welcome to our channel. Here, we explore the fascinating stories of history, from the rise and fall of empires to the lives of influential figures who shaped our world. Join us on this journey through time as we uncover the events that define our past and continue to influence our future. Part 1. Introduction to Augustus and the Roman Republic. In the last century of the Roman Republic, Rome was a powerful but fracturing state. The system that had governed the city-state and its territories for hundreds of years was struggling under the strain of its expanding borders and increasing internal divisions. This was the world Augustus, born Gaius Octavius, would inherit and eventually reshape. However, to understand Augustus and his significance, it's essential to grasp the tensions and dynamics that define the Roman Republic in his time. By the 1st century BCE, the Roman Republic was in turmoil. Rome's expansion over centuries had led to profound political, social, and economic challenges. Originally built as a city-state ruled by a complex system of checks and balances, the Republic had developed institutions meant to prevent any single individual from acquiring absolute power. This system relied on a mix of elected officials, including consuls, senators, and tribunes, who represented different interests in society. But as Rome grew, this system was increasingly unable to manage the demands of a vast, diverse empire. At the heart of this tension was a division between the Roman aristocracy, or patricians, and the plebeians, the common people. While the Senate, Rome's primary governing body, was controlled by powerful aristocrats, many plebeians felt marginalized. The vast gap in wealth and power, exacerbated by the influx of riches from Rome's conquests, created resentment among the lower classes. Military generals, commanding legions and gaining immense wealth and loyalty from their soldiers, also began to challenge the Republic's authority. Generals like Gaius Marius and Sulla had already used their armies to assert political power, weakening the Republic's institutions. Additionally, the influx of enslaved people from Rome's conquests displaced Roman farmers, leading to further social discontent. The result was a society on the brink of collapse, with different factions vying for power and a growing public desire for reform or even a savior to bring stability. Augustus, born in 63 BCE, entered this world during a time when the Roman Republic was already facing severe internal conflicts. His family was of modest nobility, and while they were not among the most powerful in Rome, they had connections that would eventually prove significant. The man who would become Augustus was born Gaius Octavius Thurinus in the town of Velletri. His father held minor political offices, and while respected, he lacked the immense influence of Rome's leading families. However, Augustus's life would change dramatically due to a connection with one of the most famous figures in Roman history, Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar, a brilliant general and politician, played a significant role in the final years of the Roman Republic. A master of both military and political maneuvering, Caesar had built a strong power base by appealing to the common people of Rome. He championed their interests against the aristocratic Senate and, through his military conquests, gained immense popularity and resources. Caesar's rise to power alarmed many senators, leading to a complex struggle between him and other powerful figures, particularly Pompey, his former ally. The conflict between Caesar and Pompey culminated in a civil war that ended with Caesar's victory and his subsequent appointment as dictator for life. This title broke with the Republic's tradition of rotating leadership and checks on power. Caesar's ascent to near-absolute power alienated a group of senators, who feared he intended to end the Republic and establish a monarchy. In 44 BCE, a group of conspirators, including Brutus and Cassius, assassinated Caesar in an effort to preserve the Republic. The assassination of Caesar plunged Rome into a chaotic period where the Republic's future was uncertain. Caesar's death, rather than restoring the Republic, sparked a power vacuum that many attempted to fill. Among those seeking to inherit Caesar's legacy was his adopted son and heir, Gaius Octavius, later known as Augustus. At just 18 years old, Octavius inherited not only Caesar's name, but also his wealth and the loyalty of many of his supporters. Though young and initially underestimated, Octavius's connection to Caesar would prove a pivotal factor in his rise to power. The political crisis following Caesar's assassination was intense and complicated. Mark Antony, Caesar's loyal lieutenant, initially seemed positioned to control Caesar's resources and legacy. Antony was a skilled military leader and popular with Caesar's veterans, but he underestimated Octavius. To many, Octavius appeared to be a relatively unremarkable youth with little experience, and few believed he could assert any real influence. However, Octavius quickly demonstrated a talent for political maneuvering that would define his career. Octavius soon began to take steps to establish his claim to Caesar's legacy. He used his inheritance to build alliances and gain favor among Caesar's supporters. The Senate, in the meantime, sought to manipulate Octavius as a tool against Antony, hoping to curb Antony's growing power. These early years would set Octavius on a path that would ultimately transform him into Augustus, the founder of the Roman Empire. In the final years of the Roman Republic, the struggle for power became intense and ruthless. Octavius formed alliances, built a power base, and leveraged his connection to Caesar to consolidate influence. His ability to navigate the complex world of Roman politics, combined with the resources he inherited from Caesar, would soon lead him to join forces with Mark Antony and another prominent Roman, Lepidus, forming the Second Triumvirate. This alliance would define the next phase of Rome's history and bring Octavius closer to ultimate control over the Roman world. The Republic, with its system of elected officials and checks on power, was crumbling under the weight of internal conflict and external pressures. As Rome expanded and generals gained more power, the idea of a single ruler became increasingly appealing to a public weary of civil wars and political instability. Octavius, with his cunning, determination, and the legacy of Caesar, would come to embody this shift toward a new form of governance, a shift that would end the Republic and give birth to the Roman Empire. Through his life and actions, Augustus would not only bring an end to the Republic, but also establish a new political system that would endure for centuries. The transformation from Republic to Empire was complex, filled with struggles, betrayals, and strategic maneuvering that ultimately shaped the future of Western civilization. This was the world Augustus would come to dominate, a world on the brink of monumental change. Part 2. The Early Life of Gaius Octavius. Gaius Octavius, who would later become Augustus, was born on September 23, 63 BCE, in the small town of Velletri, located south of Rome. Although he would later be known as a mighty ruler, his early life was relatively modest by Roman standards. Octavius came from a minor aristocratic family, one with some influence, but lacking the substantial wealth and power of Rome's elite families. This background provided him with a humble foundation, one that, paradoxically, might have contributed to his later resilience and adaptability in the volatile political landscape of Rome. His father, Gaius Octavius, served as a local magistrate and eventually achieved a governorship in Macedonia, a testament to the family's ambition. However, he passed away when Octavius was just 4 years old, leaving his mother, Aetia, to raise him. Aetia was the daughter of Julia, who was Julius Caesar's sister, linking young Octavius to one of the most significant figures in Roman history. This connection to Caesar would prove invaluable, shaping Octavius's life and career in ways neither he nor his family could have anticipated. Aetia, known for her strong character and dedication, took great care in Octavius's upbringing. She instilled in him a sense of discipline and ambition, and he was given an education befitting a young Roman of his status. Octavius learned Latin and Greek, studied rhetoric, and was introduced to the foundational principles of Roman law and governance. These studies prepared him for a life in public service and gave him the intellectual tools he would need to navigate Rome's complex political system. But it was his connection to Julius Caesar that would ultimately open the doors to an extraordinary future. As Octavius grew older, his family's ties to Caesar became more significant. Julius Caesar was already a rising figure in Roman politics, known for his charisma, military prowess, and political acumen. Caesar's influence on the young Octavius was profound, providing him with a role model and an example of how one could rise to power. In 47 BCE, when Octavius was just 16, Caesar invited him to join his military campaign in Hispania. This opportunity was a mark of Caesar's growing interest in Octavius, and it introduced the young man to the realities of military life and leadership. However, circumstances prevented him from joining Caesar immediately, as he fell ill and could not make the journey. This episode, though minor, hinted at Octavius's determination, as he attempted the journey despite his sickness. Octavius's early life was not without hardship, but these experiences likely strengthened his resolve. When he finally joined Caesar's campaigns in the following years, he demonstrated a keen sense of observation and a natural talent for leadership. His time with Caesar allowed him to witness the skills needed to command both soldiers and public support. These formative years under Caesar's guidance exposed Octavius to the brutal realities of power and prepared him for the challenges he would face in Rome's political arena. One of the most defining moments of Octavius's early life came in 44 BCE, when Julius Caesar was assassinated. Octavius, then only 18 years old, was in Apollonia, studying and preparing to join Caesar in a new campaign against the Parthians. The news of Caesar's death shocked Rome and threw the Republic into chaos. Octavius immediately returned to Italy, where he learned that Caesar had named him as his heir in his will. This declaration effectively placed Octavius at the center of Roman politics and set him on a path that would eventually lead to his role as Rome's first emperor. In naming Octavius as his heir, Caesar effectively handed him not only his wealth and name, but also his political allies and the loyalty of the Roman people. The decision was unexpected, as Caesar had more experienced allies and family members who might have seemed better suited to continue his legacy. Yet Caesar, ever the strategist, likely saw potential in Octavius, recognizing his determination and capacity to navigate complex situations. This inheritance was a heavy responsibility, and Octavius understood the significance of Caesar's trust. As Octavius arrived in Rome to claim his inheritance, he faced an enormous task. Rome was divided between various political factions, all of whom had their own interests and rivalries. The Senate, initially supportive of Caesar's assassination, was trying to reassert control and prevent another rise to absolute power. Meanwhile, Mark Antony, Caesar's loyal general and close confidant, was positioning himself as the rightful successor to Caesar's authority. Antony was experienced, popular with the troops, and in possession of Caesar's papers and official documents, which gave him a significant advantage. Despite being young and relatively inexperienced, Octavius was determined to claim his inheritance and honor Caesar's legacy. He quickly demonstrated a sharp mind and an ability to read political situations, qualities that would become his trademarks. Understanding the importance of public opinion, he announced that he would pay Caesar's promised legacy to the Roman citizens, using his own limited resources to fulfill Caesar's bequests. This move was a masterstroke, winning him the loyalty of the people and positioning him as a legitimate heir to Caesar's popularity. Octavius also began to gather allies, carefully building a network of supporters within Rome and the military. Many of Caesar's former soldiers and followers saw Octavius as the rightful heir, and his actions helped solidify this perception. Over time, he would skillfully balance the competing interests in Rome, working to ensure that he maintained support from both the Senate and Caesar's loyalists. These early efforts established him as a political player and showed that he was more than a mere figurehead. As tensions in Rome grew, Octavius's rivalry with Mark Antony intensified. Antony viewed Octavius as a threat and initially underestimated his abilities, believing that the young man would be no match for him in a power struggle. However, Octavius was careful to present himself as a loyal follower of Caesar's legacy, focusing on honoring his adoptive father's memory and appealing to those who felt betrayed by the Senate and the conspirators. This approach allowed him to gain significant public support, which would be essential in the coming conflicts. In these early years, Octavius displayed a remarkable sense of purpose and adaptability. He used Caesar's resources and reputation to establish his own identity and gradually gain influence. By appealing to Caesar's supporters and leveraging his inheritance, Octavius demonstrated a level of political skill far beyond his years. His rise was carefully calculated, as he balanced the need for alliances with the demands of a fractured and hostile political environment. Through his early actions, Octavius laid the groundwork for his eventual transformation into Augustus. He would continue to face challenges, navigate complex alliances, and endure battles of both words and weapons. But his early life, marked by ambition, careful strategy, and an unwavering sense of purpose, set him on a course that would ultimately lead to the foundation of the Roman Empire. Part 3. The Assassination of Julius Caesar. The assassination of Julius Caesar on the Ides of March in 44 BCE was one of the most pivotal events in Roman history. Caesar's death marked the beginning of the end for the Roman Republic and set in motion a chain of events that would eventually lead to the rise of Augustus. Understanding the motives, events, and consequences of Caesar's assassination is crucial to comprehending the political environment that Octavius, later Augustus, would navigate in his quest for power. By the time of his assassination, Julius Caesar was one of the most powerful men in Rome. His conquests, particularly in Gaul, had brought immense wealth and prestige to Rome and solidified his reputation as a military genius. However, his growing power and influence began to alarm many senators, who feared that he was becoming too ambitious and would soon declare himself king. The title of king was especially controversial in Rome, as the Romans prided themselves on their republic and their rejection of monarchical rule. To them, a king represented a loss of freedom and a return to the oppressive rule they had overthrown centuries earlier. Caesar's ambitions, both real and perceived, led to the formation of a conspiracy among a group of senators. The conspirators, led by Marcus Junius Brutus and Gaius Cassius Longinus, were initially Caesar's allies but had grown wary of his power. Brutus, in particular, was a close friend of Caesar's, and their relationship made the decision to join the conspiracy a difficult one. Many of the conspirators believed they were acting in the best interest of the Republic, convinced that Caesar's death would restore the traditional balance of power and preserve the Senate's authority. On March 15, 44 BCE, the conspirators put their plan into action. Caesar arrived at the Senate, unaware of the plot against him. As he prepared to address the assembly, the conspirators surrounded him and attacked, stabbing him multiple times. The famous phrase, "Et tu, Brute?", though likely apocryphal, came to symbolize Caesar's shock and sense of betrayal as he realized that even his friend Brutus had joined the attack. With Caesar's death, the Senate believed they had saved the Republic from tyranny. However, they had drastically underestimated the public's attachment to Caesar and the fallout that would follow. The immediate reaction to Caesar's assassination was one of shock and uncertainty. The Roman people were stunned, and many mourned his death. Caesar was immensely popular among the lower classes and the military, who saw him as a champion of the people and a reformer who challenged the entrenched power of the aristocracy. The conspirators, who had expected to be hailed as saviors of the Republic, were instead faced with an outraged public and a growing backlash. In the days following the assassination, Rome was plunged into chaos. Mark Antony, Caesar's loyal lieutenant and close friend, took immediate steps to position himself as the defender of Caesar's legacy. Antony seized Caesar's papers, his financial resources, and the control of his assets, making himself a formidable force against the conspirators and anyone who opposed Caesar's vision for Rome. At Caesar's public funeral, Antony delivered a stirring oration that inflamed the emotions of the Roman populace, inciting anger and sorrow and directing that rage toward the conspirators. Antony's speech, immortalized in literature and drama, was a masterstroke of political manipulation, swaying public opinion and turning the people against Brutus, Cassius, and the other assassins. Meanwhile, Octavius, who was studying in Apollonia at the time of Caesar's assassination, learned of his adoptive father's death and immediately returned to Italy. Upon his arrival, He discovered that Caesar had named him as his primary heir, not only inheriting Caesar's wealth, but also his name and his political mantle. This decision, made by Caesar in his will, shocked many Romans who expected Antony or another established political figure to succeed Caesar. Yet Caesar, ever the strategist, likely saw in Octavius a potential that was not yet evident to others. For Octavius, the inheritance was both a blessing and a burden. At only 18 years old, he was thrust into a world of political machinations and power struggles far beyond his experience. Nevertheless, he quickly showed a remarkable capacity for understanding and navigating the complex dynamics of Roman politics. Octavius knew that if he was to fulfill Caesar's legacy and secure his position, he would need allies and a clear strategy. Antony was the most obvious choice, as Caesar's loyal friend, but their alliance would prove to be tenuous. The conspirators, meanwhile, found themselves isolated and increasingly desperate. Despite their initial hope of restoring the Republic, they soon realized that public sentiment was turning against them. The support they expected from the Senate was lukewarm at best, as many senators feared retaliation from Caesar's loyalists and the broader public. Brutus and Cassius, along with the other conspirators, fled Rome to regroup and gather support for what they knew would be an inevitable confrontation with those seeking to avenge Caesar. Rome itself was on the brink of another civil war. Antony's powerful position as Caesar's chief lieutenant and Octavius's status as Caesar's heir made them natural allies, at least for the moment. They shared a common enemy in the conspirators, but both men harbored ambitions that would eventually place them in opposition. Antony sought to consolidate his control over Caesar's veterans and supporters, positioning himself as the rightful successor to Caesar's influence. However, Octavius, young and underestimated by many, was quietly building his own power base. Octavius's approach was calculated and strategic. Rather than directly challenging Antony, he focused on solidifying his claim to Caesar's legacy. Octavius announced that he would distribute Caesar's wealth to the Roman people, fulfilling the promises made in Caesar's will. This action won him widespread public support and demonstrated that he was committed to carrying on Caesar's legacy, endearing him to those who had admired Caesar's reforms. By honoring Caesar's promises, Octavius distinguished himself from Antony, who was beginning to alienate parts of the public through his own power grabs and heavy-handed tactics. The struggle for power between Antony, Octavius, and the conspirators set the stage for a broader conflict. Antony and Octavius, though allied in their pursuit of Caesar's assassins, each harbored personal ambitions that could not be reconciled. The tension between them foreshadowed a division that would ultimately lead to the collapse of the Republic and the establishment of the Roman Empire. As they prepared for the inevitable confrontation with Brutus and Cassius, both men knew that only one of them could truly inherit Caesar's legacy. The assassination of Caesar was the catalyst that transformed Octavius from a young nobleman into a major political force. Through his inheritance, he gained not only Caesar's wealth but also his name and reputation, giving him the authority to challenge the status quo. The conspirators, initially celebrated as defenders of the Republic, found themselves hunted and reviled, unable to regain the support they had expected. Antony, meanwhile, would soon realize that his greatest rival was not the conspirators, but the very man Caesar had chosen as his heir. This moment of turmoil was a turning point in Roman history, marking the beginning of the end for the Republic. In the years that followed, Rome would be embroiled in a series of conflicts that would see Octavius rise to prominence and reshape the future of Rome. The legacy of Caesar, though cut short by assassination, would live on through Octavius, who would ultimately build on Caesar's ambitions and lay the foundations for the Roman Empire. Part 4. Rise of Octavian, the Political Gambit. After Julius Caesar's assassination in 44 BCE, young Octavius, now calling himself Octavian to reflect his adopted father's name, began maneuvering through the complex political landscape of Rome. At only 18 years old, he was an unlikely contender in a realm dominated by seasoned statesmen and powerful generals like Mark Antony. However, Octavian quickly proved that he was more than just Caesar's inexperienced heir. He had a remarkable understanding of political strategy, and his methods would lead him from a position of relative obscurity to the highest echelons of Roman power. Octavian's first steps were carefully calculated to secure his place as Caesar's legitimate successor. Upon arriving in Rome, he learned that Caesar's estate and fortune had been left to him, and he began asserting his claim by appealing to the loyalty and affection Caesar's supporters had for the fallen leader. One of his most effective moves was to promise to fulfill Caesar's will by distributing the funds Caesar had bequeathed to the Roman citizens. By doing this, he gained popular support and showed the public that he intended to honor Caesar's legacy. Meanwhile, Octavian's main rival, Mark Antony, was consolidating his position as Caesar's lieutenant and assumed control over many of Caesar's assets. Antony initially dismissed Octavian as little more than a youthful figurehead and believed he could easily outmaneuver him. However, Octavian's actions quickly demonstrated that he was not to be underestimated. Using his inheritance and Caesar's reputation, Octavian gathered support among Caesar's veterans and loyalists, thereby establishing a base of power independent of Antony. This was a bold move that signaled Octavian's willingness to stand up to one of Rome's most powerful men. The relationship between Octavian and Antony grew increasingly tense. Antony, a skilled orator and military leader, wielded considerable influence over the Senate and Caesar's former allies. He assumed that his experience and authority would make him the uncontested leader of Caesar's followers. Octavian, however, managed to gain favor with key figures in the Senate, who saw in him a young leader they could potentially influence against Antony. This political gambit proved effective, as Octavian began to receive support from senators who were wary of Antony's ambitions. In 43 BCE, Octavian took another decisive step by raising his own army. With the support of the Senate, he recruited Caesar's veterans, many of whom saw him as a legitimate heir to Caesar's vision for Rome. The formation of this personal military force solidified his status and demonstrated his capability as a military leader. With his army, Octavian now had the leverage to assert his demands within Rome and counterbalance Antony's influence. This development marked Octavian's transition from a young politician into a military commander, ready to challenge the established power structures. The conflict between Octavian and Antony reached a breaking point when the Senate declared Antony an enemy of the state. Antony had taken actions that alarmed the Senate, including his attempts to control key provinces and consolidate power. The Senate saw this as a threat to their authority, and, seeing an opportunity, they appointed Octavian as a commander in their campaign against Antony. This alliance was advantageous for Octavian, as it allowed him to portray himself as a defender of the Republic, aligning himself with traditional Roman values while positioning Antony as a threat to Roman stability. In the ensuing conflict, known as the Battle of Mutina, Octavian and the Senate's forces clashed with Antony's army. Although the victory over Antony's forces was inconclusive, Octavian emerged with increased influence and credibility. The Senate, recognizing his potential, granted him the title of Imperium, giving him the legal authority to command troops. This was a significant milestone in his political career and signaled the beginning of his transformation into a major power within the Roman state. However, Octavian's ambition was far from satisfied, and his next moves would demonstrate his keen sense of political timing and alliance building. After the Battle of Mutina, Octavian found himself at odds with the Senate, who saw him as a useful tool but were reluctant to grant him real power. The Senate hoped to use Octavian to check Antony's power without giving him the authority to challenge their own influence. Octavian, however, had no intention of being a mere pawn in their game. Realizing that his relationship with the Senate was unsustainable, he began to look for other allies who could help him achieve his goals. This led to a surprising and strategic alliance with Antony and Lepidus, forming what would become known as the Second Triumvirate. The formation of the Second Triumvirate was a masterstroke of political calculation. By aligning himself with Antony and Lepidus, Octavian gained access to their resources and military strength, creating a formidable coalition that could counter any opposition from the Senate or the conspirators who had killed Caesar. The triumvirate, sanctioned by law, granted each of its members shared control over Rome and its territories. They were given extraordinary powers to restore order and purge their enemies, and this authority marked a significant shift away from the republican system of checks and balances. The alliance between Octavian, Antony, and Lepidus had a clear objective: to defeat Caesar's assassins and consolidate their rule over Rome. This led to a brutal campaign against Brutus and Cassius, the leaders of the conspiracy against Caesar, who had fled to the eastern provinces to rally their forces. In 42 BCE, the triumvirate's armies met the forces of Brutus and Cassius in the Battle of Philippi. Octavian and Antony's combined forces emerged victorious, marking the end of the conspirators' resistance and avenging Caesar's death. This victory solidified the triumvirate's authority, but it also highlighted the growing tension between its members. With the threat of Caesar's assassins eliminated, the triumvirate faced the challenge of governing Rome and managing their own ambitions. Octavian controlled the western provinces, Antony took command of the eastern territories, and Lepidus was given control over Africa. This division of power was intended to balance their interests, but it also set the stage for future conflicts. Antony's ambitions in the east and his relationship with Cleopatra, the Queen of Egypt, would eventually bring him into direct conflict with Octavian. For now, however, Octavian focused on strengthening his position in Rome, consolidating power and building alliances. Octavian's political acumen was evident in his ability to navigate the complexities of the triumvirate. While Antony became increasingly focused on his campaigns in the east and his relationship with Cleopatra, Octavian remained in Rome, portraying himself as a stabilizing force and a defender of Roman values. He used propaganda to shape public perception, emphasizing his connection to Caesar and contrasting his Roman ideals with Antony's perceived foreign influence from the east. This strategy won him significant support among the Roman populace, who began to see him as a champion of traditional Roman virtues. Octavian's propaganda campaign against Antony was carefully crafted to appeal to Roman pride and identity. He positioned himself as the defender of Rome's legacy, subtly implying that Antony's alliances in the east threatened Roman culture and stability. These efforts were effective, gradually turning public opinion against Antony and consolidating Octavian's own position within Rome. His ability to manipulate public perception was one of his most powerful tools, allowing him to outmaneuver Antony without direct confrontation. By the end of the triumvirate's rule, Octavian was well on his way to establishing himself as Rome's preeminent leader. His mastery of political alliances, military strategy, and public relations had transformed him from Caesar's young heir into a formidable political figure. Although he was still nominally part of the triumvirate, Octavian's ambitions extended far beyond shared rule. He would soon set his sights on absolute power, moving one step closer to the foundation of the Roman Empire. The triumvirate would not last forever, and Octavian knew that his final confrontation with Antony was inevitable. For now, however, he continued to strengthen his position, preparing for the moment when he could seize complete control over Rome. His political gambit had paid off, and the young Octavian, underestimated by many, was now poised to reshape Rome's destiny. Part 5. The Collapse of the Second Triumvirate. The Second Triumvirate, initially formed in 43 BCE as a means to consolidate power and avenge Julius Caesar's assassination, was a fragile alliance from the start. Composed of Octavian, Mark Antony, and Lepidus, the triumvirate had been granted immense authority to rule Rome and eliminate their enemies. This arrangement, however, was inherently unstable, as each man had distinct ambitions that would eventually drive them apart. By examining the factors that led to the collapse of the Second Triumvirate, we can see the paths that set Octavian on his ultimate rise to absolute power and Antony toward his downfall. At first, the triumvirate's main goal was clear: to defeat Caesar's assassins and restore order in Rome. The triumvirs executed a bloody campaign against those responsible for Caesar's death, culminating in their victory at the Battle of Philippi in 42 BCE. With Brutus and Cassius defeated, the triumvirate's enemies in the Senate and among the nobility had been effectively neutralized. However, as the immediate threat subsided, cracks began to appear within the alliance. Without a common enemy to unite them, Octavian, Antony, and Lepidus began pursuing their individual interests. The division of power among the triumvirs was initially designed to keep them in check. Octavian controlled the western provinces, Antony the eastern provinces, and Lepidus held Africa. This distribution of territories was intended to prevent any single triumvir from gaining too much influence. However, Antony's increasing focus on his eastern territories and his relationship with Cleopatra, the Queen of Egypt, soon put him on a collision course with Octavian. Meanwhile, Lepidus's role became increasingly marginalized as he struggled to maintain relevance within the triumvirate. One of the first signs of discord appeared when Antony began an affair with Cleopatra, a relationship that would have significant political consequences. Cleopatra, one of the most influential rulers of her time, sought to strengthen Egypt's influence through her alliance with Antony. Their relationship was both a personal and political bond, as Cleopatra saw in Antony a powerful partner who could help protect Egypt's interests, while Antony saw in Cleopatra a source of wealth and military support for his campaigns in the East. However, this alliance caused alarm in Rome, where many saw Cleopatra as a threat to Roman sovereignty and viewed Antony's growing connection to her with suspicion. Octavian was quick to capitalize on this sentiment, launching a propaganda campaign to portray Antony as a traitor to Rome. He emphasized Antony's supposed Eastern corruption, suggesting that Antony had been seduced by Cleopatra and was abandoning his Roman heritage in favor of a foreign queen. Octavian's portrayal of Antony as a man compromised by Eastern luxury and Cleopatra's influence resonated with many Romans who were wary of foreign influence. This narrative strengthened Octavian's support base, as he presented himself as the defender of Roman traditions against Antony's perceived betrayal. As tensions grew, Lepidus attempted to assert his authority within the triumvirate, but his efforts ultimately backfired. In 36 BCE, Lepidus attempted to seize control of Sicily, a strategic province that had been recently pacified after a revolt. Octavian, recognizing an opportunity to eliminate a rival, quickly moved to suppress Lepidus's forces. Lepidus, unable to mount a significant resistance, was stripped of his powers and forced into exile. This marked the end of Lepidus's role in the triumvirate and left only Octavian and Antony as the remaining powers. With Lepidus out of the picture, the rivalry between Octavian and Antony escalated. Antony's focus remained on the East, where he embarked on campaigns to expand Rome's influence and secure resources. However, his efforts were often frustrated by logistical challenges, fierce opposition, and the complexities of dealing with various Eastern monarchies. Despite his military ambitions, Antony's campaigns yielded limited success, which further strained his resources and reputation. Meanwhile, Octavian was consolidating his position in Rome, carefully cultivating alliances and portraying himself as a leader who embodied traditional Roman virtues. Antony's relationship with Cleopatra continued to serve as a powerful tool for Octavian's propaganda. In 34 BCE, Antony declared Cleopatra's son Caesarion, whom she claimed was Caesar's child, as the rightful heir to Caesar's legacy. This act, known as the Donations of Alexandria, included the distribution of Roman territories to Cleopatra's children, further fueling rumors that Antony intended to establish a separate power in the East. Octavian seized upon this declaration as evidence of Antony's treachery, arguing that Antony intended to set up a rival empire in Alexandria. This perception of Antony as a threat to Rome's unity strengthened Octavian's support among the Senate and the Roman public. In 32 BCE, the tension between Octavian and Antony reached a breaking point. Octavian, having accumulated a vast amount of evidence and testimonies against Antony, presented his case to the Senate. The Senate, swayed by Octavian's rhetoric and his portrayal of Antony as a traitor, officially stripped Antony of his titles and declared war on Cleopatra. Octavian framed the conflict as a war against a foreign queen rather than a civil war against a fellow Roman. This strategic framing allowed him to maintain popular support as he positioned himself as the defender of Rome against foreign influence. The decisive confrontation came in 31 BCE at the Battle of Actium. Octavian's forces, commanded by his admiral Agrippa, met Antony and Cleopatra's fleet off the western coast of Greece. The battle was a closely fought naval engagement, with both sides fully aware that the fate of Rome hung in the balance. Despite their efforts, Antony and Cleopatra's forces were outmaneuvered by Agrippa, and their fleet was ultimately defeated. The loss at Actium shattered Antony and Cleopatra's power and marked the end of their challenge to Octavian's authority. Following his defeat, Antony fled with Cleopatra to Alexandria, where they made a final, desperate attempt to resist Octavian's forces. However, with their armies depleted and their allies abandoning them, their situation was hopeless. In 30 BCE, as Octavian's forces approached Alexandria, Antony and Cleopatra chose to end their lives rather than face capture and humiliation. Antony's death marked the end of a turbulent era and removed the last major obstacle standing between Octavian and absolute power. Cleopatra's death soon followed, symbolizing the fall of Egypt's last pharaoh and the final absorption of Egypt into the Roman Empire. With the defeat of Antony and Cleopatra, Octavian emerged as the unrivaled master of Rome. His political and military strategy had outlasted and outmaneuvered all rivals, placing him in a position to reshape Rome according to his vision. The collapse of the Second Triumvirate marked the end of the Republic's internal struggles and paved the way for Octavian to establish himself as Rome's first emperor. Upon his return to Rome, Octavian was hailed as a hero and savior of the Republic. However, the Republic that he had saved was fundamentally changed. Through his skillful manipulation of public opinion, his elimination of rivals, and his careful accumulation of power, Octavian had laid the foundations of an empire. He would soon take on the title of Augustus, signaling a new era for Rome, one that would be marked by stability and prosperity under his reign. The collapse of the Second Triumvirate was a turning point in Roman history. It marked the end of the Republic's final attempt to balance power among multiple rulers and signaled the beginning of a new era of centralized authority. Octavian's victory over Antony and Cleopatra was not just a military triumph. It was the culmination of years of careful planning, strategic alliances, and ruthless decision-making. With his rivals defeated and his power secure, Octavian stood on the brink of transforming Rome from a republic plagued by civil wars into an empire that would dominate the Mediterranean world for centuries. Part 6. Octavian's Path to Augustus and the Birth of the Empire. With the defeat of Antony and Cleopatra, Octavian returned to Rome in 29 BCE as the undisputed master of the Roman world. This victory concluded decades of civil strife that had begun with the assassination of Julius Caesar, leaving Rome exhausted from the repeated cycles of war. Octavian now faced the enormous task of rebuilding a society that had been ravaged by internal conflict. He had achieved dominance through military prowess and shrewd political maneuvering, yet he understood that Rome's stability required more than just force. To secure a lasting peace, Octavian would have to reshape Rome's political structure and win the trust of its people. Octavian's vision for Rome was fundamentally different from that of the Republic that preceded him. While he was fully aware that his power rested on his control of the military, he also recognized that outright dictatorship would be met with resistance from the Senate and the Roman elite. Instead, Octavian aimed to establish a new form of governance that would preserve the outward appearance of the Republic while centralizing authority within his hands. This delicate balance would become the cornerstone of what historians later called the Roman Empire. In 27 BCE, Octavian enacted a series of reforms designed to consolidate his power while maintaining the illusion of republican governance. He convened the Senate and formally offered to relinquish his control over the provinces and military forces he had acquired during the civil wars. This gesture was a calculated move, as he knew the Senate would feel obligated to refuse, recognizing his value as the stabilizing force that Rome desperately needed. The Senate responded by granting him unprecedented honors and titles, including Augustus, a name that conveyed reverence and sanctity, marking him as a figure above ordinary men. From this moment on, Octavian was no longer just a victorious general. He was Augustus, the first emperor of Rome. The title of Augustus held profound symbolic significance. Derived from the Latin word augere, meaning to increase or to honor, it suggested a sense of divine approval and authority. By adopting this title, Augustus was positioning himself as a leader who transcended traditional politics, one who ruled with the favor of the gods. This new identity allowed him to blend military power with religious legitimacy, reinforcing his status as a protector of Roman values and traditions. To further cement his authority, he assumed the title princeps, or first citizen, a modest designation that allowed him to exercise power without appearing as a king. Augustus's reforms transformed the structure of Roman government. He retained the Senate as a governing body, but its role was now largely ceremonial, with most significant decisions directed by Augustus himself. He maintained control over the key provinces, especially those with large military garrisons, ensuring that the legions would remain loyal to him. This arrangement allowed him to retain effective command over Rome's military forces while creating the illusion of a functioning republic. By concentrating power in his hands, Augustus was able to govern without the chaos that had plagued the late Republic. One of Augustus's most significant achievements was the establishment of the Pax Romana, or Roman peace, a period of unprecedented stability that would last for over 2 centuries. Recognizing that Rome's expansionist policies had contributed to its internal strife, Augustus shifted focus from conquest to consolidation. He strengthened the borders of the empire, fortifying key outposts and creating buffer zones to protect against invasions. Rather than seeking to expand Rome's territory, Augustus prioritized securing the regions already under Roman control. This policy of cautious expansion allowed Rome to flourish economically, culturally, and socially during his reign. Augustus also implemented a wide range of social and moral reforms aimed at restoring traditional Roman values. He promoted laws encouraging marriage, penalized adultery, and sought to revive the ancient Roman virtue of pietas, a sense of duty to family, gods, and state. These measures were intended to strengthen the moral fabric of Roman society, which Augustus believed had been weakened by years of conflict and political instability. By emphasizing these values, Augustus aimed to instill a sense of unity and purpose within the Roman populace, reinforcing the idea that he was not only a ruler but also a moral leader. To enhance his public image, Augustus undertook a massive building program, transforming the city of Rome into a majestic capital befitting an empire. He famously claimed, "I found Rome a city of bricks and left it a city of marble," reflecting his desire to leave a lasting legacy through architecture and infrastructure. Public buildings, temples, and monuments were constructed throughout the city, many of which were dedicated to Roman gods and historical figures, subtly aligning Augustus's reign with Rome's divine and legendary past. The architectural transformation of Rome served both practical and symbolic purposes, projecting an image of stability, prosperity, and cultural achievement. Augustus was acutely aware of the importance of succession in maintaining the stability of the empire he had built. However, he faced considerable challenges in securing a suitable heir. Throughout his reign, he adopted several potential successors, including his nephew Marcellus, his friend and General Agrippa, and eventually his stepsons Tiberius and Drusus. Each of these choices reflected his attempt to ensure a seamless transition of power, though the premature deaths of some of his chosen heirs complicated his plans. Despite these challenges, Augustus remained committed to creating a dynastic structure that would allow his family to govern Rome after his death. In 2 BC, the Senate granted Augustus the title Pater Patriae, or Father of the Fatherland, an honor that symbolized his role as the protector and unifier of Rome. This title reflected the deep respect and loyalty that Augustus had cultivated among the Roman people, who saw in him the embodiment of Roman ideals. By the time of his death in 14 CE, Augustus had transformed Rome from a republic plagued by civil war into a stable and prosperous empire. His reign was celebrated as a golden age, and his legacy would shape the character of Roman governance for centuries to come. The establishment of the Roman Empire under Augustus marked a turning point in world history. No longer would Rome be ruled by competing factions and power-hungry generals. Instead, Augustus's centralization of power created a system that allowed for continuity and stability, qualities that would enable Rome to thrive as an empire. The Pax Romana would see the expansion of Roman law, language, and culture throughout the Mediterranean, laying the foundations for a legacy that would influence future civilizations. Augustus's path to power was marked by strategic alliances, careful reforms, and a deep understanding of Roman society and its values. He balanced military strength with political wisdom, allowing him to create an enduring legacy that would define the Roman world for generations. As Augustus lay on his deathbed, it was said that he remarked, "I found Rome built of clay, and I leave her to you in marble." This statement encapsulated his vision for Rome, a civilization built on the values of order, unity, and grandeur. The birth of the Roman Empire under Augustus would set the stage for one of the most remarkable periods in Western history. His achievements as a ruler were not just a product of his ambition, but also of his unique ability to adapt and respond to the challenges facing Rome. In the decades to come, the empire he founded would face its own trials and triumphs. Yet the foundations laid by Augustus would endure, providing a model of governance that would be emulated by emperors, kings, and leaders for centuries. Under Augustus, Rome had transformed, becoming a beacon of cultural, economic, and military might. His reign symbolized the beginning of a new era, one where Rome would dominate the known world, not just through conquest, but through the spread of its ideals, language, and achievements. Augustus's vision of Rome as a unified, thriving empire would live on long after his death, cementing his legacy as the father of an empire that would shape the course of history. Part 7. Augustus's reforms and the solidification of imperial power. As Augustus transitioned from a military leader to Rome's first emperor, he understood that true stability required a deeper foundation than just military might. His aim was to establish a government that not only functioned effectively but would also endure beyond his lifetime. With this goal in mind, Augustus implemented a series of comprehensive reforms that restructured nearly every aspect of Roman society. His administrative, economic, and social reforms reshaped the Roman Empire, providing it with a new stability that allowed it to thrive for centuries. Through these reforms, Augustus strengthened his authority, bridged the divide between the classes, and cemented his legacy as a ruler who redefined Roman governance. One of Augustus's primary focuses was reorganizing the administration of Rome and its provinces. During the Republic, provincial governors had often abused their power, using their positions to amass personal wealth at the expense of the local populations. To address this, Augustus established a more formalized system of governance for the provinces. He divided the empire into senatorial and imperial provinces, each with different governing structures. Senatorial provinces were typically more peaceful regions overseen by the Senate, while imperial provinces, often more volatile or strategically important, were under Augustus's direct control. This system not only improved the efficiency of provincial administration but also ensured that the empire's most crucial areas remained loyal to Augustus. By taking control of the imperial provinces, Augustus retained authority over the Roman military. He stationed legions in these provinces, primarily along Rome's borders, to protect against external threats and maintain internal peace. This concentration of military power in the hands of the emperor was a significant departure from the practices of the Republic. It reduced the likelihood of rebellious generals challenging Augustus's authority and reinforced the emperor's role as Rome's supreme military leader. This structure also helped stabilize the provinces, as Roman soldiers became a constant presence, supporting local governance and promoting a sense of order. In addition to reorganizing the provinces, Augustus implemented a series of financial reforms to strengthen Rome's economy. These included tax reforms designed to increase revenue while reducing the burden on the empire's lower classes. Rather than relying solely on local tax collectors, who were often corrupt and inefficient, Augustus created a central treasury known as the fiscus, which was controlled directly by the emperor. This centralization of finances allowed Augustus to standardize tax collection and reduce corruption, ensuring that funds were properly allocated to maintain the empire's infrastructure and military. The stability provided by these reforms created a stronger economic base, allowing Rome to fund public works, build infrastructure, and maintain its military presence throughout the empire. Augustus also turned his attention to the social fabric of Roman society, introducing laws that reinforced traditional Roman values. These laws, collectively known as the Leges Julii or Julian laws, sought to promote social order by encouraging family stability, marriage, and moral conduct. He enacted laws that penalized adultery and incentivized marriage and childbearing among the Roman elite, aiming to strengthen the family unit as the foundation of Roman society. Augustus believed that these reforms would help revive the Roman virtues of loyalty, duty, and respect for authority. By promoting these values, he hoped to foster a sense of unity and pride among the Roman people, further solidifying the empire's stability. Another significant aspect of Augustus's reforms was his support for the urban poor. Recognizing that poverty and social discontent could lead to instability, Augustus expanded Rome's grain distribution program, known as the Cura Annoni. This program ensured that the urban poor received a regular supply of grain, reducing the risk of food shortages and unrest. Additionally, Augustus funded public works projects that provided employment for the poor and improved the city's infrastructure. Through these measures, Augustus demonstrated his commitment to the welfare of all Roman citizens, reinforcing his image as a ruler who cared for the well-being of his people. To further strengthen his public image, Augustus invested heavily in Rome's architectural and cultural landscape. He embarked on an extensive building program that included the construction of temples, public buildings, roads, and aqueducts. The Forum of Augustus, with its grand temple to Mars altar, stood as a testament to Rome's military might and Augustus's personal devotion to Rome's gods. These monumental structures not only beautified the city, but also served to remind the populace of Augustus's achievements and his role as a protector of Rome. The transformation of Rome's physical landscape helped to reinforce Augustus's legacy as a ruler who had brought prosperity, order, and beauty to the city. In addition to building projects, Augustus used cultural patronage to promote Roman values and celebrate Rome's history. He supported poets like Virgil, Horace, and Ovid, whose works glorified Rome and Augustus's accomplishments. Virgil's Aeneid, an epic poem that traces the mythical origins of Rome, portrays Augustus as the culmination of Rome's divine destiny. By aligning himself with Rome's illustrious past and future, Augustus cemented his role as both a restorer of Roman values and a visionary leader shaping the empire's destiny. Through art and literature, Augustus fostered a sense of pride and cultural identity among Romans, reinforcing the unity he sought to create through his reforms. The reforms Augustus implemented also extended to Rome's legal system. Recognizing the importance of a stable and fair judicial process, Augustus reorganized the judiciary and established permanent courts with defined jurisdictions. These courts reduced the arbitrariness of legal proceedings and created a more consistent system of justice throughout the empire. By improving the efficiency of the legal system, Augustus promoted a sense of fairness and accountability, which helped to legitimize his authority and secure the loyalty of Roman citizens. The judiciary reforms not only benefited Rome but also set a standard for governance in the provinces, promoting a sense of Roman identity and cohesion across the empire. To ensure that his reforms would endure after his death, Augustus worked to establish a clear line of succession. He groomed several members of his family to take on leadership roles, aiming to create a dynastic system that would provide continuity and stability for the empire. Despite facing setbacks, such as the untimely deaths of several potential successors, Augustus ultimately prepared his stepson Tiberius to assume the role of emperor. This focus on succession was a key part of Augustus's strategy to preserve his legacy and ensure that the empire would continue to function smoothly under a single ruler. Augustus's reforms fundamentally altered the nature of Roman governance. By centralizing power while preserving the appearance of republican institutions, he created a government that balanced authority with tradition. His emphasis on social stability, economic strength, and cultural unity allowed Rome to flourish as an empire. The Roman Empire's vast network of roads, stable currency, and legal system became hallmarks of Augustus's reign, establishing a legacy that would influence the development of Western civilization. Through his careful management of power, Augustus transformed Rome from a fragile republic into a stable empire. His reforms were not merely about maintaining control. They were designed to create a lasting system that could govern a diverse and expansive territory. By addressing the needs of the provinces, the urban poor, and the elite, Augustus created a cohesive society bound by shared values and loyalty to the emperor. His achievements were more than a testament to his political acumen. They reflected his understanding of Rome's unique identity and his vision for its future. The legacy of Augustus's reforms would endure long after his death, shaping the character of the Roman Empire and influencing the governance of future empires. His focus on administrative efficiency, legal justice, and social cohesion provided a model for imperial rule that would be emulated by his successors. As Augustus neared the end of his life, he could look back on his accomplishments with pride, knowing that he had transformed Rome into a world power that stood as a beacon of order and civilization. Augustus's reign was not without its challenges, but his legacy as Rome's first emperor remains one of the most remarkable achievements in history. By laying the foundations of the Roman Empire, he set the stage for a period of unparalleled prosperity and peace. The Pax Romana, which began under Augustus, would endure for generations, shaping the lives of millions and leaving an indelible mark on the course of Western history. Part 8. The Pax Romana and Rome's Golden Age. Augustus's reign marked the beginning of the Pax Romana, or Roman peace, a period that brought over 2 centuries of stability, prosperity, and relative peace to the Roman Empire. Spanning from Augustus's consolidation of power in 27 BCE until approximately 180 CE, the Pax Romana provided a foundation on which the empire could flourish economically, culturally, and socially. During this time, the empire experienced unparalleled growth, transforming the Roman world into a hub of commerce, arts, and intellectual achievement. The stability Augustus had worked so diligently to establish created an environment in which the empire could thrive, marking the Pax Romana as one of the most significant periods in Western history. The foundations of the Pax Romana were deeply rooted in Augustus's reforms, which brought order to Rome's political landscape and established a centralized administration capable of governing a vast and diverse empire. By securing Rome's borders and creating a professional standing army, Augustus ensured that external threats were managed and internal revolts were swiftly quelled. His policies encouraged trade, communication, and the spread of Roman law and culture across the empire, creating a sense of unity among its diverse peoples. The peace and prosperity fostered by the Pax Romana allowed for the expansion of Roman influence far beyond the borders of Italy, shaping the Mediterranean world and beyond. One of the most remarkable aspects of the Pax Romana was the period of economic prosperity it brought to Rome and its provinces. With secure borders and an extensive network of roads and sea routes, trade flourished across the empire. Goods, people, and ideas moved freely between the empire's regions, enriching the lives of its inhabitants and creating a thriving economy. Rome became a bustling center of commerce, attracting merchants and artisans from across the empire. Provinces like Egypt, known for its agricultural abundance, provided Rome with grain, while other regions supplied raw materials, luxury goods, and skilled labor. This economic boom was facilitated by Augustus's financial reforms, which created a stable currency and promoted fair taxation, enabling the empire to sustain its vast military and public works projects. The infrastructure developed during the Pax Romana was a testament to Rome's engineering prowess and commitment to connectivity. Augustus and his successors constructed an extensive road system, known as the Vie Romani, that stretched across the empire, linking its cities and provinces. These roads not only facilitated trade and communication but also allowed for the rapid movement of Roman legions, ensuring that the empire could respond swiftly to any threat. In addition to roads, the Romans built aqueducts, bridges, and ports that improved urban life and supported the empire's agricultural and commercial endeavors. The construction of these public works projects provided employment for thousands and demonstrated the benefits of Roman governance to the empire's inhabitants. The Pax Romana also saw a flourishing of Roman art, literature, and philosophy, supported by emperors who valued cultural achievement as a means of unifying the empire. Augustus's patronage of the arts laid the groundwork for this cultural golden age, inspiring a generation of writers, artists, and thinkers who celebrated Rome's values and ideals. Figures such as Virgil, Horace, and Livy produced works that glorified Rome's past and celebrated its future, fostering a shared cultural identity across the empire. The Aeneid, written by Virgil, became a foundational myth for Rome, linking the city's origins to the heroic traditions of ancient Greece and promoting Augustus as a divinely sanctioned leader. Through literature and art, Rome's cultural legacy spread throughout the empire, creating a shared sense of belonging among its diverse peoples. The stability of the Pax Romana allowed for the growth of urban centers, transforming Rome into a cosmopolitan metropolis and inspiring the development of cities across the empire. These cities, modeled after Rome, became centers of Roman culture, architecture, and administration. Public baths, theaters, temples, and forums were constructed in cities from Gaul to Asia Minor, reflecting the architectural styles and social customs of the capital. The spread of Roman culture was facilitated by Roman citizenship, which Augustus expanded to incorporate more provincial elites. By granting citizenship and promoting cultural assimilation, the Roman government fostered loyalty and a sense of shared identity among the empire's diverse populations. Religion during the Pax Romana also played a crucial role in uniting the empire. While traditional Roman gods remained central to Roman society, Augustus emphasized the role of the emperor as a divine protector of Rome. The imperial cult, which honored the emperor as a quasi-divine figure, encouraged loyalty to the empire and reinforced the idea that the emperor was the source of stability and prosperity. Augustus's emphasis on traditional Roman values and religious observances further promoted social cohesion, blending state and religion into a single entity that unified the empire. The respect for local customs and deities allowed Rome to incorporate diverse peoples into the imperial framework while maintaining their cultural uniqueness. Education and intellectual pursuits thrived under the Pax Romana, driven by the empire's stability and wealth. The Romans valued Greek philosophy and literature, and many Roman elites were educated in the Greek tradition. Philosophers such as Seneca and Epictetus contributed to the development of Stoicism, a philosophical school that emphasized self-discipline, resilience, and acceptance of fate. Stoicism's emphasis on duty and rationality resonated with Roman values and became influential among the empire's ruling class. Additionally, the Romans made significant advances in fields like engineering, medicine, and law, building on Greek knowledge and developing practical applications that would benefit future civilizations. Roman law, codified and standardized during the Pax Romana, became one of the most lasting legacies of this period. Augustus and his successors created a legal system that applied not only to Roman citizens, but also to the empire's diverse populations. Roman law emphasized the importance of contracts, property rights, and individual freedoms, creating a framework that would influence legal systems for centuries. The development of Roman law helped to unify the empire, providing a consistent set of principles that governed social and economic life across its territories. The stability of the Pax Romana allowed these legal advancements to flourish, leaving a legal legacy that would shape the foundations of Western law. The spread of Christianity began during the Pax Romana, laying the groundwork for one of the most significant religious transformations in history. Although initially viewed with suspicion by Roman authorities, Christianity benefited from the empire's extensive infrastructure and the Pax Romana's relative tolerance of religious diversity. Early Christian communities formed in major urban centers, taking advantage of the empire's communication networks to spread their teachings. The stability provided by the Pax Romana allowed these communities to grow, ultimately leading to Christianity's rise as a major religious force in the later Roman Empire. While still a minority religion during the Pax Romana, Christianity's foundations were established in this period, setting the stage for its eventual spread across the empire. The Pax Romana was not without its challenges. Local uprisings, foreign incursions, and occasional political disputes required the empire to remain vigilant and adaptable. However, Augustus's system of governance proved resilient, allowing the empire to address these challenges without collapsing into civil war. The empire's ability to maintain its stability for over 2 centuries is a testament to the effectiveness of Augustus's reforms and the strength of the Roman state. Through the Pax Romana, Rome demonstrated the benefits of a centralized, stable government, providing a model of imperial rule that would be admired and emulated by future generations. By the end of the Pax Romana, the Roman Empire had transformed the Mediterranean world. Its roads, cities, laws, and culture had created a cohesive civilization that would influence Europe, the Middle East, and North Africa for millennia. The peace and prosperity of the Pax Romana allowed Rome to achieve remarkable advancements in nearly every field, from architecture and engineering to philosophy and governance. The foundations laid during this period would continue to shape Western civilization long after the fall of the Roman Empire. The Pax Romana stands as a testament to Augustus's vision and leadership. His ability to balance military strength with administrative efficiency created an empire that endured and thrived for centuries. This period of peace allowed Rome to achieve its cultural, economic, and political zenith, cementing its legacy as one of the greatest empires in history. The ideals of unity, stability, and prosperity that define the Pax Romana would inspire future rulers and shape the course of Western civilization. Part 9. The Succession Crisis and the Julio-Claudian Dynasty. As the Pax Romana progressed, the question of succession became increasingly critical for the stability of the Roman Empire. Augustus, having successfully established himself as the first emperor, was acutely aware that his legacy would depend on the strength and competence of his successors. He understood that the empire's future would rely on a stable transition of power, yet this very concern would soon evolve into a significant crisis. Following Augustus's death in 14 CE, the issues surrounding succession became painfully apparent, ushering in the Julio-Claudian dynasty and a complex period of political intrigue and turmoil. Augustus's chosen successor was his stepson Tiberius, a seasoned military commander and a member of the Julio-Claudian family. Despite being Augustus's preferred choice, Tiberius's ascent to the throne was marred by controversy and resentment. He inherited an empire that was not only vast but also fraught with political factions and a populace that had grown accustomed to the personal authority of the emperor. Many in Rome viewed Tiberius with suspicion, as he had been more of a military figure than a populist leader. His rule began with a promise of stability, but the initial years were marked by unrest, as many feared he would not uphold the legacy of Augustus. Tiberius's leadership style differed significantly from Augustus's more charismatic approach. He was often described as withdrawn and aloof, preferring the company of a few trusted advisors over engaging with the broader Senate or populace. This created a rift between the emperor and the Senate, undermining the collaborative governance model that Augustus had cultivated. As Tiberius faced increasing dissent, he became increasingly paranoid, resulting in a series of purges against perceived enemies within the political elite. This environment of fear and suspicion led to a political atmosphere characterized by intrigue and betrayal, which would plague the Julio-Claudian dynasty for years to come. Tiberius's tenure also marked a shift in the relationship between the emperor and the Senate. While Augustus had respected the traditional powers of the Senate, Tiberius often bypassed them, relying instead on his close advisors and personal judgments. This change strained the relationship between the Senate and the imperial office, leading to resentment among senators who felt their influence was diminishing. As Tiberius increasingly relied on a small circle of advisors, including the notorious Sejanus, his authority became increasingly centralized, undermining the republican ideals that still lingered within Roman governance. Following Tiberius's death in 37 CE, the throne passed to his grandnephew Caligula, a ruler whose brief and tumultuous reign would further destabilize the empire. Initially celebrated for his youthful exuberance and promise of reform, Caligula soon devolved into tyranny and excess. His rule was marked by erratic behavior, lavish spending, and a penchant for cruelty, culminating in a series of infamous acts that shocked the Roman populace. Caligula's infamous declaration of divinity and attempts to elevate his status to that of a god alienated many, leading to widespread resentment among the elite and the military. Caligula's erratic behavior and extravagant lifestyle ultimately fueled plots against him, leading to his assassination in 41 CE. The subsequent power vacuum once again highlighted the fragility of the Julio-Claudian dynasty and the dangers of unchecked imperial power. After a brief period of chaos, the throne passed to Claudius, Caligula's uncle and a figure who had often been underestimated and overlooked within the imperial family. Claudius's ascension marked a return to a more pragmatic approach to governance, as he sought to stabilize the empire and restore confidence in the imperial office. Claudius, who had often been seen as an unlikely candidate for emperor due to his physical disabilities and perceived weaknesses, proved to be an effective ruler. He expanded the empire's territory by successfully invading Britain in 43 CE, a military campaign that not only bolstered Roman prestige, but also strengthened Claudius's authority. His reign witnessed a revitalization of the imperial administration as he sought to address corruption and improve provincial governance. Claudius implemented significant reforms aimed at streamlining the bureaucracy and promoting capable individuals based on merit rather than connections. His approach helped restore some faith in the imperial system, but his rule was not without challenges, as he too faced conspiracies and attempts on his life. The tumultuous nature of the Julio-Claudian dynasty reached its climax with the rise of Nero, Claudius's adopted son, who became emperor in 54 CE. Initially viewed as a promising ruler with the potential for greatness, Nero's reign devolved into a notorious legacy of excess, cruelty, and artistic ambition. Influenced by his mother, Agrippina the Younger, and a series of advisors, Nero's early years were marked by attempts to consolidate power and eliminate perceived rivals. However, as he grew more confident in his rule, he increasingly indulged in his whims, neglecting the responsibilities of governance in favor of a life of luxury and performance. Nero's penchant for public performances, including acting and music, scandalized Roman society, particularly among the elite. Many viewed his artistic pursuits as unbecoming of an emperor, undermining the dignity of the office and alienating key political factions. His increasingly erratic behavior led to widespread discontent and unrest, culminating in revolts and conspiracies against his rule. In 68 CE, amid a backdrop of rebellion and mounting pressures, Nero's reign came to an end, marking the collapse of the Julio-Claudian dynasty. The instability of the Julio-Claudian dynasty highlighted the inherent vulnerabilities of the imperial system that Augustus had established. Despite his initial reforms and efforts to create a stable line of succession, the lack of a clear and universally accepted method for selecting emperors led to chaos and conflict. The assassination of several emperors and the subsequent power struggles among their successors revealed the fragility of the political system, which was heavily reliant on the personality and capabilities of individual leaders. The succession crisis that followed Nero's death plunged Rome into a period of civil war known as the Year of the Four Emperors, 69 CE. During this chaotic time, multiple claimants vied for power, leading to rapid shifts in authority and a breakdown of order throughout the empire. The absence of a clearly defined succession mechanism underscored the need for a more stable and sustainable approach to governance, a lesson learned painfully during the tumultuous aftermath of the Julio-Claudian dynasty. The legacy of the Julio-Claudian dynasty is complex, embodying both the successes and failures of imperial rule in Rome. While Augustus had laid the groundwork for a prosperous and stable empire, the subsequent leaders struggled to maintain that equilibrium. The tensions between the Senate and the imperial office, combined with the lack of a robust system for succession, ultimately exposed the vulnerabilities of the Roman political structure. The lessons learned during this period would influence subsequent emperors and the development of imperial governance in Rome, as future leaders sought to address the challenges that had arisen from the excesses and instabilities of their predecessors. Despite the chaos that characterized the latter part of the Julio-Claudian dynasty, Augustus's legacy as the founder of the Roman Empire remained intact. His reforms, though tested by the challenges of succession, provided a framework that would endure through the subsequent changes in leadership. The challenges faced by the Julio-Claudians served as a reminder of the delicate balance required to maintain authority and governance in a vast and diverse empire. The succession crisis that emerged from the Julio-Claudian dynasty would ultimately shape the future of Roman governance, as the need for stability and order became paramount in the eyes of future emperors. The lessons learned from this tumultuous period would influence Rome's trajectory for generations, underscoring the importance of strong leadership and a clear succession plan for the continued prosperity of the empire. Part 10. The Flavian Dynasty and the Consolidation of Power. Following the chaotic end of the Julio-Claudian dynasty, the Roman Empire entered a new era with the rise of the Flavian dynasty, which began with the ascension of Vespasian in 69 CE. This transition marked a significant turning point in Roman history, as Vespasian sought to restore order, stability, and legitimacy to a realm shaken by civil war and political upheaval. The Flavian dynasty represented a return to strong, centralized leadership, and Vespasian's reign would set the stage for a remarkable period of consolidation and architectural achievement in Rome. Vespasian, a military general who had played a crucial role during the civil wars, understood the importance of restoring faith in the imperial institution. Upon becoming emperor, he focused on repairing the damage inflicted during the previous years, implementing policies aimed at stabilizing the economy and securing the loyalty of the military. His leadership style emphasized practicality over extravagance, in stark contrast to his predecessors, and he quickly garnered support from the military and the populace. By prioritizing fiscal responsibility, Vespasian raised funds through taxes and public works projects, reinforcing the economic foundation of the empire. One of Vespasian's most significant contributions was his initiation of the ambitious building project known as the Flavian Amphitheater, better known as the Colosseum. This monumental structure, constructed between 70 and 80 CE, symbolized the might and grandeur of Rome, showcasing the architectural ingenuity of the empire. Designed to accommodate tens of thousands of spectators, the Colosseum became the center of public entertainment, hosting gladiatorial games, animal hunts, and other spectacles that captivated the Roman populace. The construction of the Colosseum not only provided employment for thousands, but also served as a powerful tool for Vespasian to win the hearts of the Roman people, reinforcing the notion that he was a leader who prioritized their interests. Under Vespasian's reign, the Flavian dynasty continued to strengthen its hold on power, as his sons, Titus and Domitian, succeeded him, each leaving their mark on the empire. Titus, who reigned from 79 to 81 CE, is perhaps best remembered for his response to the catastrophic eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 79 CE, which devastated the city of Pompeii and its surroundings. His leadership during this crisis showcased his ability to govern effectively in times of emergency, as he organized relief efforts and provided assistance to the affected regions. Titus's popularity soared as a result of his compassionate response to the disaster, reinforcing the Flavian dynasty's image as a benevolent and capable ruling family. The Flavian dynasty also witnessed the completion of the Colosseum during Titus's brief reign, further solidifying the family's legacy in Roman architecture and culture. The Colosseum became a symbol of Roman power and engineering prowess, attracting visitors from across the empire and becoming an enduring emblem of Rome's grandeur. As a venue for entertainment and public spectacle, it reflected the social dynamics of Roman society, where the games served both as a distraction from daily life and a means of demonstrating imperial authority. The elaborate spectacles held within its walls reinforced the idea of the emperor as a provider of entertainment and sustenance for the people, further entrenching the Flavian dynasty's legitimacy. Following Titus's untimely death in 81 CE, his brother Domitian ascended to the throne, ruling until 96 CE. Domitian's reign was marked by a focus on consolidating power and enhancing the emperor's authority, leading to a more autocratic style of governance. While he initially sought to continue the policies of his brother, Domitian soon faced opposition from the Senate and the aristocracy due to his increasingly tyrannical approach to rule. Domitian's efforts to centralize authority often clashed with the traditional powers of the Senate, leading to tensions that would define much of his reign. Domitian's commitment to military expansion and the protection of the empire's borders was a notable aspect of his rule. He invested heavily in the military, ensuring that Rome's legions remained strong and well-equipped, further solidifying the empire's territorial integrity. Domitian's campaigns in Britain and Dacia showcased his ambition to expand Roman influence, although these military endeavors were often met with mixed success. The cost of these military campaigns strained the empire's finances and contributed to growing discontent among the elite, who perceived Domitian's focus on military glory as a threat to their power and influence. Despite the tensions surrounding his reign, Domitian sought to promote himself as a godlike figure, emphasizing the imperial cult and demanding loyalty from his subjects. He instituted a series of reforms aimed at enhancing his image and consolidating power, including lavish public ceremonies and the construction of monumental buildings throughout Rome. These efforts were intended to project an image of strength and stability, contrasting with the chaos that had preceded his rule. However, Domitian's autocratic style and increasing paranoia led to growing dissatisfaction among both the political elite and the general populace. Domitian's reign culminated in a series of conspiracies and plots against him, reflecting the mounting tensions between the emperor and the Senate. The political climate grew increasingly hostile, as Domitian's reliance on informers and secret police created an atmosphere of fear and suspicion throughout the capital. In 96 CE, a conspiracy led to his assassination, marking the end of the Flavian dynasty and a significant turning point for the Roman Empire. The transition from the Flavians to the Nerva-Antonine dynasty brought a new era of governance, characterized by a return to more collaborative rule and a focus on stabilizing the empire. The legacy of the Flavian dynasty is complex, as it encapsulated a period of significant consolidation and architectural achievement while grappling with the inherent challenges of autocratic rule. Vespasian's pragmatic leadership restored stability to the empire after the tumult of the Julio-Claudian dynasty, establishing a foundation upon which his successors would build. The construction of the Colosseum and other monumental projects reflected the Flavian commitment to the welfare of the Roman people, reinforcing the emperor's role as a provider of entertainment and prosperity. However, the legacy of the Flavian dynasty is also marred by Domitian's tyrannical rule, which underscored the dangers of unchecked power within the imperial system. The tensions between the emperor and the Senate during Domitian's reign highlighted the need for balance in governance, as future emperors would seek to avoid the pitfalls that led to the downfall of the Flavian dynasty. In many ways, the Flavian dynasty laid the groundwork for the political dynamics that would define the Roman Empire for generations to come. The lessons learned from this era of consolidation, military ambition, and political intrigue would shape the governance of the empire and inform the relationship between the emperor and the Senate in the years ahead. As Rome transitioned into the Nerva-Antonine dynasty, the echoes of the Flavian legacy continued to resonate throughout the empire, influencing the course of history for centuries to follow. Part 11. The Nerva-Antonine Dynasty and the Five Good Emperors. The rise of the Nerva-Antonine dynasty marked a pivotal period in Roman history, characterized by relative stability, prosperity, and enlightened governance. This era began with the ascension of Nerva in 96 CE, following the assassination of Domitian, and it ushered in a series of emperors often referred to as the Five Good Emperors. Nerva's reign, though brief, laid the groundwork for a transformative period in which the ideals of benevolent leadership and effective administration came to the forefront of Roman governance. Nerva came to power during a time of significant unrest and dissatisfaction among the Roman populace and the elite alike. His ascent marked a departure from the autocratic rule of Domitian, as he was seen as a moderate and a unifying figure capable of restoring order to a fractious empire. Understanding the need for stability, Nerva implemented a series of reforms aimed at addressing the grievances of both the Senate and the people, fostering a renewed sense of trust in the imperial office. His commitment to justice and fairness earned him the loyalty of the Senate, as he prioritized their involvement in governance, contrasting sharply with Domitian's approach. Nerva's most notable contribution was the establishment of a precedent for adopting heirs, a practice that would become a hallmark of the Nerva-Antonine dynasty. Aware of his advanced age and the need for a capable successor, he adopted Trajan, a popular general with a proven track record in the military. This decision not only ensured a smooth succession but also highlighted Nerva's commitment to meritocracy over lineage, reinforcing the idea that the best ruler should be chosen for the benefit of the empire. Nerva's reign, though short-lived, set the stage for a remarkable period of governance that would be defined by the wisdom and capabilities of his successors. Trajan ascended to the throne in 98 CE and is widely regarded as one of Rome's greatest emperors. His reign marked the height of the Roman Empire in terms of territorial expansion, economic prosperity, and cultural achievements. Trajan's military campaigns, particularly his successful conquests in Dacia, significantly expanded the empire's borders and brought immense wealth into the Roman treasury. His victory in Dacia was celebrated with the construction of the monumental Trajan's Column in Rome, a triumphal monument that commemorated his military achievements and showcased the artistry of Roman engineering. Trajan's governance was characterized by a deep commitment to public welfare and infrastructure development. He implemented extensive building programs throughout the empire, including roads, bridges, and aqueducts, which facilitated trade and communication across vast distances. His policies also extended to social welfare, as he established alimenta, a system of state-sponsored support for poor children, emphasizing the emperor's role as a protector of the vulnerable. Trajan's focus on public welfare and infrastructure not only bolstered the empire's economy, but also endeared him to the Roman populace, reinforcing the idea of a benevolent ruler committed to the common good. Following Trajan's death in 117 CE, his adopted son Hadrian ascended to the throne and continued the legacy of enlightened governance established by his predecessors. Hadrian is perhaps best known for his efforts to consolidate and secure the empire's vast borders rather than pursuing further expansion. His famous decision to construct Hadrian's Wall in Britain exemplified this approach, serving both as a defensive structure and a symbol of Roman strength against external threats. Hadrian's reign was characterized by a focus on diplomacy and relationships with the provinces, as he sought to foster a sense of loyalty among the diverse peoples of the empire. Hadrian's commitment to cultural integration was evident in his promotion of Hellenistic culture and architecture throughout the empire. He was an avid patron of the arts and invested heavily in monumental buildings, including the magnificent Pantheon in Rome, which showcased the grandeur and sophistication of Roman architecture. His reign was marked by a flourishing of arts and culture, as Hadrian embraced the legacy of Greek civilization and sought to unify the empire through shared cultural practices. This cultural renaissance contributed to the cohesion and stability of the empire during a time of potential fragmentation. The transition from Hadrian to his successor, Antoninus Pius, in 138 CE further exemplified the stability of the Nerva-Antonine dynasty. Antoninus Pius's reign was characterized by a remarkable lack of military conflict, often referred to as a golden age for the empire. He focused on maintaining peace and prosperity, prioritizing legal reforms and public welfare initiatives that benefited the citizenry. Antoninus was renowned for his sense of justice, overseeing the development of legal principles that protected individual rights and fostered social equity. His dedication to governance earned him the respect and loyalty of both the Senate and the populace, reinforcing the notion of a ruler devoted to the common good. Antoninus Pius's policies of stability and prosperity continued under the reign of his adopted son, Marcus Aurelius, who became emperor in 161 CE. Often referred to as the philosopher king, Marcus Aurelius was deeply influenced by Stoic philosophy, which shaped his approach to leadership and governance. His reign is marked by a commitment to duty, wisdom, and moral integrity, embodying the ideals of the five good emperors. Marcus Aurelius faced numerous challenges during his rule, including military conflicts along the empire's northern frontier and the Antonine Plague, which devastated the population and strained resources. Despite these challenges, Marcus Aurelius remained steadfast in his commitment to the welfare of the empire. His writings, particularly the Meditations, provide profound insights into his philosophical reflections on duty, leadership, and the human condition, showcasing the intellectual depth of a ruler who sought to govern with wisdom and virtue. Marcus Aurelius's emphasis on resilience and duty during times of crisis reinforced the ideals of the Nerva-Antonine dynasty, exemplifying the role of the emperor as a stabilizing force in an ever-changing world. The era of the Nerva-Antonine dynasty is often hailed as a high point in Roman history, characterized by effective governance, cultural flourishing, and relative peace across the empire. The legacy of the five good emperors is one of enlightened leadership, where the focus on public welfare, justice, and stability fostered a sense of loyalty and cohesion among the diverse populations of the empire. The principles established during this period would have lasting impacts on the nature of Roman governance, setting standards for future leaders. However, the transition to Marcus Aurelius's son, Commodus, marked the end of this golden era and foreshadowed the challenges that would emerge in the following decades. Commodus's reign would diverge sharply from the ideals of the five good emperors, highlighting the fragility of the imperial system and the potential for decline even after a period of prosperity. As the Nerva-Antonine dynasty came to a close, the lessons learned from this remarkable period would resonate through the annals of Roman history, emphasizing the significance of virtuous leadership and the pursuit of the common good in maintaining the integrity of the empire. Part 12. The Crisis of the 3rd Century and the Fall of the Roman Empire. The crisis of the 3rd century represents one of the most tumultuous and transformative periods in Roman history, stretching from 235 to 284 CE. This era was characterized by a confluence of internal strife, external invasions, economic decline, and political instability that threatened the very foundations of the Roman Empire. Following the assassination of Emperor Alexander Severus in 235 CE, the empire entered a phase of fragmentation and chaos as multiple claimants to the imperial throne emerged, leading to a rapid succession of emperors, often referred to as the 30 tyrants. The political landscape of the empire became increasingly volatile during this period, with military generals frequently seizing power through force. Each new emperor faced challenges from rival factions, civil wars, and external threats, leading to a constant state of instability. The lack of a clear succession plan and the reliance on military might to gain and maintain power contributed to the decline of central authority as the empire became divided between competing warlords and factions. This fragmentation was exacerbated by the rise of regionalism as provinces began to assert their autonomy, further eroding the unity of the empire. In addition to political instability, the empire faced significant economic challenges during the 3rd century crisis. The rampant inflation that plagued the empire led to a devaluation of currency, causing severe economic hardships for the populace. Trade routes were disrupted due to constant warfare and invasions, leading to shortages of essential goods and a decline in economic activity. The agricultural sector also suffered, as land was ravaged by conflict and the rural population dwindled due to conscription into the military or displacement from their homes. This economic decline contributed to a widespread sense of disillusionment among the populace, eroding support for the imperial authority and fueling discontent. The external threats to the empire further compounded the crisis, as invasions from barbarian tribes and Persian forces intensified during this period. The Germanic tribes, such as the Goths and Franks, began to encroach on Roman territory, launching raids and invasions that strained the already stretched Roman military. These incursions exposed the vulnerabilities of the empire's borders, leading to the need for a more robust military response. Simultaneously, the Sasanian Empire rose to power in the east, posing a formidable challenge to Roman supremacy in the region and resulting in significant military conflicts along the eastern frontiers. Despite the dire circumstances, several emperors emerged during this period who sought to restore order and stability to the empire. Aurelian, who reigned from 270 to 275 CE, is particularly notable for his military successes and efforts to reunify the fragmented empire. Aurelian's campaigns against the Palmyrene Empire and the Gallic Empire were pivotal in reclaiming lost territories and restoring imperial authority. His victory over Queen Zenobia of Palmyra in 273 CE marked a significant triumph, as it re-established Roman control over the eastern provinces and reaffirmed the empire's dominance. Aurelian also implemented crucial reforms aimed at addressing the economic decline and restoring faith in the imperial system. He recognized the need for a stable currency and took measures to combat inflation by reintroducing a more reliable coinage system. Additionally, he bolstered the military and improved fortifications along the empire's borders to deter future invasions, showcasing his commitment to restoring the empire's security. Aurelian's reforms laid the groundwork for subsequent efforts to stabilize the empire, although his reign was cut short by assassination in 275 CE, highlighting the persistent instability of the time. Following Aurelian's death, the empire experienced continued turmoil, with a succession of short-lived emperors struggling to maintain control. The period of instability continued until the rise of Diocletian in 284 CE, who recognized the urgent need for comprehensive reforms to address the challenges facing the empire. Diocletian's ascension marked the end of the crisis of the 3rd century and the beginning of a new phase of governance characterized by radical restructuring and the consolidation of power. Diocletian implemented sweeping reforms aimed at stabilizing the empire, including the reorganization of provincial administration and the establishment of the Tetrarchy, a system of governance that divided the empire into 4 regions, each ruled by a co-emperor. This division was intended to enhance administrative efficiency and improve military response capabilities along the empire's borders. The Tetrarchy allowed for a more localized approach to governance, enabling emperors to address regional issues more effectively while maintaining a unified imperial front. Diocletian's reforms also included measures to combat inflation and stabilize the economy, such as the issuance of a new currency and the establishment of price controls to combat rampant inflation. While Diocletian's reforms brought about a degree of stability, they were not without controversy. The increased centralization of power and the emphasis on imperial authority led to tensions with the traditional senatorial elite, as the balance of power shifted away from the Senate. Moreover, Diocletian's persecution of Christians during his reign highlighted the complex religious dynamics within the empire, as the growing popularity of Christianity began to challenge the traditional Roman polytheistic beliefs. The tensions between the old religious order and the emerging Christian faith foreshadowed the profound changes that would reshape the Roman Empire in the years to come. The crisis of the 3rd century serves as a reminder of the fragility of the Roman Empire and the multitude of factors that contributed to its eventual decline. The challenges faced during this period, including political instability, economic turmoil, external invasions, and social unrest, created a perfect storm that threatened the very existence of one of history's greatest empires. While the reforms instituted by Diocletian and his successors helped to stabilize the empire temporarily, the legacy of the 3rd century crisis left lasting scars on the imperial system. As the Roman Empire transitioned into the late antiquity period, the lessons learned from the crisis of the 3rd century would shape future governance and inform the strategies employed by subsequent leaders to address the ever-evolving challenges of an expansive and diverse empire. This period of crisis, though fraught with difficulties, ultimately set the stage for significant transformations that would define the trajectory of the Roman Empire in the centuries to follow. Part 13. The Rise of Christianity and its Impact on the Roman Empire. The rise of Christianity represents one of the most transformative phenomena in the history of the Roman Empire, fundamentally altering the religious, cultural, and social landscape of the ancient world. Emerging in the 1st century CE as a sect within Judaism, Christianity quickly spread beyond its Jewish roots, attracting followers from diverse backgrounds and social strata. Initially perceived as a minor religious movement, it gained momentum through the teachings of Jesus of Nazareth, whose messages of love, compassion, and salvation resonated with the marginalized and disenfranchised in Roman society. Jesus' crucifixion around 30 CE marked a pivotal moment in the history of Christianity, serving as a catalyst for the movement's expansion. Following his death, his disciples and early followers, known as apostles, traveled throughout the Roman Empire, spreading his teachings and establishing communities of believers. Notable figures such as Peter and Paul played crucial roles in the dissemination of Christian beliefs, with Paul particularly instrumental in articulating a theology that transcended ethnic and cultural boundaries, emphasizing that salvation was accessible to all, regardless of background. The initial growth of Christianity occurred within the context of the Roman Empire's religious pluralism, where various cults and belief systems coexisted. However, as Christianity began to gain followers, it also encountered resistance from both Jewish authorities and Roman officials. Early Christians were often viewed with suspicion, primarily due to their refusal to participate in traditional Roman religious practices, including the veneration of the emperor and the pantheon of Roman gods. This refusal was interpreted as a threat to the social order, leading to periodic persecutions of Christians, particularly under emperors such as Nero and Diocletian. The persecution of Christians, rather than extinguishing the movement, often strengthened it, as believers were galvanized by the sacrifices made by martyrs for their faith. The stories of martyrdom became powerful testimonies to the strength of Christian conviction, inspiring others to convert and join the growing movement. Despite the challenges, Christianity continued to flourish in urban centers across the empire, appealing to individuals seeking hope and meaning in a world marked by political upheaval and social stratification. The Edict of Milan in 313 CE, issued by Emperor Constantine the Great, marked a turning point for Christianity within the Roman Empire. This decree granted religious tolerance and officially legalized Christianity, ending the era of persecution and allowing the faith to be practiced openly. Constantine's conversion to Christianity had profound implications for the future of the religion, as he became its most prominent advocate within the imperial system. His patronage led to the construction of significant Christian sites, including the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem and St. Peter's Basilica in Rome, which served to legitimize and elevate Christianity within the Roman socio-political context. Under Constantine's rule, Christianity transitioned from a marginalized faith to a dominant religion within the empire, fundamentally reshaping Roman society and culture. The Council of Nicaea in 325 CE exemplified this transformation, as it marked the first ecumenical council of the Christian Church, aimed at addressing theological disputes and establishing a unified doctrine. The Nicene Creed, formulated during this council, became a foundational statement of Christian faith, symbolizing the efforts to unify the diverse Christian communities under a coherent belief system. This council not only solidified the authority of bishops and church leaders, but also underscored the increasing intertwining of church and state, as emperors sought to establish a stable and unified religious framework within their. The rise of Christianity also had profound implications for Roman religious practices and cultural identity. As Christianity gained prominence, traditional pagan practices began to decline, leading to the gradual marginalization of the old gods and cults that had once defined Roman religious life. This transition was met with resistance from traditionalists who viewed the new faith as a threat to Roman values and heritage, resulting in tensions between the two religious paradigms. However, the gradual decline of paganism was accompanied by the adoption of certain elements of Roman culture within Christianity, as the Church sought to integrate its teachings with existing traditions to facilitate the acceptance of the new faith. The establishment of Christianity as the state religion in the late 4th century CE, particularly under Emperor Theodosius I, marked the culmination of this transformation. Theodosius issued decrees that effectively made Christianity the official religion of the Roman Empire, while simultaneously outlawing pagan practices and cults, further solidifying the dominance of Christianity. This transition not only reshaped religious life in Rome but also had significant cultural and political ramifications, as the Church emerged as a powerful institution influencing governance, morality, and social order. The rise of Christianity also prompted significant changes in the Roman legal system, as Christian values began to permeate laws and governance. The emphasis on compassion, charity, and social justice reflected Christian teachings, leading to reforms in issues such as marriage, family, and treatment of the poor and marginalized. The Church also took on a role in providing social services, establishing institutions such as orphanages and hospitals, further integrating Christian ideals into the fabric of Roman society. As Christianity spread throughout the empire, it also became a vehicle for cultural exchange and intellectual discourse. The early Church Fathers, such as Augustine of Hippo, engaged with philosophical ideas, weaving them into Christian theology and helping to shape the intellectual landscape of late antiquity. This synthesis of classical thought and Christian doctrine would have lasting impacts on the development of Western philosophy and theology, influencing subsequent generations of thinkers and leaders. Despite its remarkable growth and eventual dominance, the rise of Christianity also posed challenges for the Roman Empire. The Church's increasing influence often conflicted with imperial authority, leading to tensions between secular and ecclesiastical powers. The establishment of Christian doctrine and orthodoxy also fostered divisions and schisms within the Church, as differing interpretations of faith led to conflicts among Christian communities. These internal struggles foreshadowed the challenges that would continue to affect Christianity as it evolved into the medieval period. The rise of Christianity within the Roman Empire signifies a profound transformation that reshaped the religious, cultural, and political landscape of the ancient world. It marked the transition from a polytheistic society to a predominantly Christian one, influencing the trajectory of European history for centuries to come. The integration of Christian values into Roman law and society laid the groundwork for the development of Western civilization, highlighting the enduring legacy of this religious movement. As the empire faced challenges in the centuries following the rise of Christianity, the faith would play a crucial role in shaping the identity of the Roman world and its successor states. Part 14. The Fall of the Western Roman Empire. The fall of the Western Roman Empire is one of the most significant events in world history, marking the end of ancient Rome's dominance in the Mediterranean and the beginning of the Middle Ages in Europe. Traditionally dated to 476 CE, when the last Roman emperor, Romulus Augustus, was deposed by the Germanic chieftain Odoacer. This event was the culmination of a protracted period of decline characterized by political instability, economic turmoil, military defeats, and societal transformation. Understanding the multifaceted nature of this decline is essential to grasp the complexities of the fall and its implications for the future of Europe. The decline of the Western Roman Empire can be traced back to several key factors that coalesced over the centuries. One of the most significant issues was the internal political instability that plagued the empire, especially during the crisis of the 3rd century. The rapid succession of emperors, often through violent means, eroded the authority of the imperial office and led to widespread distrust in governance. By the late 4th century, the empire saw a succession of weak rulers unable to effectively manage the growing crises, leading to fragmentation and a lack of cohesive leadership that would have been necessary to confront external threats. Another critical factor in the empire's decline was the economic instability that resulted from decades of mismanagement, warfare, and heavy taxation. The constant need for funding military campaigns against barbarian invasions and civil wars drained the imperial treasury, while inflation devalued the currency, leading to rampant economic decline. Agriculture suffered significantly as well, with land degradation and rural depopulation exacerbated by ongoing conflicts, resulting in food shortages that destabilized local economies. This economic deterioration undermined the social fabric of Roman society, leading to increased poverty and discontent among the populace. The military challenges facing the Western Roman Empire were immense and compounded the internal problems. The empire's borders were under constant threat from various barbarian groups, including the Visigoths, Vandals, and Huns, who began to encroach on Roman territory during the late 4th and early 5th centuries. The Battle of Adrianople in 378 CE, where the Romans suffered a catastrophic defeat at the hands of the Visigoths, marked a significant turning point, showcasing the vulnerability of Roman military forces and the effectiveness of barbarian tactics. This defeat encouraged further invasions and migrations, as various tribes sought to exploit the weakened state of the empire. The Huns, led by their fierce leader Attila, posed an unprecedented threat to the stability of the Western Roman Empire in the mid-5th century. Their incursions into eastern and western territories created panic among Roman leaders and prompted a series of military responses that ultimately drained the empire's resources further. The sacking of Rome by the Visigoths in 410 CE under King Alaric signaled a profound psychological blow to the empire, as it had not experienced such a breach in over 800 years. This event shattered the long-held belief in the empire's invincibility and symbolized the crumbling authority of Rome in the face of barbarian aggression. By the time Odoacer deposed Romulus Augustulus in 476 CE, the Western Roman Empire had already experienced significant fragmentation. The establishment of various Germanic kingdoms within former Roman territories, such as the Ostrogoths in Italy and the Franks in Gaul, indicated the loss of centralized authority and governance that characterized Roman rule. The political landscape was no longer dominated by Roman law and culture, but was instead marked by the emergence of new political entities that would lay the groundwork for the medieval European order. In the wake of the empire's fall, the transformation of the Western Roman territories became evident as the new rulers adopted a mix of Roman and barbarian customs. The legacy of Roman governance, law, and culture continued to influence these emerging kingdoms, albeit in a fragmented and localized manner. The Catholic Church also emerged as a powerful institution during this period, providing a semblance of continuity and stability amid the chaos of the post-Roman world. The Church became a unifying force in Western Europe, preserving elements of Roman culture and learning while adapting to the new socio-political realities. The fall of the Western Roman Empire did not signify an abrupt end, but rather a complex transition to a new era marked by cultural syncretism and the reshaping of European identity. The so-called Dark Ages that followed were characterized by the decline of urban centers, reduced trade, and a shift towards agrarian economies as localism replaced the expansive reach of the empire. However, this period also saw the gradual emergence of new political entities, feudal structures, and the rise of kingdoms that would dominate the medieval landscape. The remnants of Roman civilization persisted, influencing the development of European culture, law, and governance long after the fall of the Western Roman Empire. The legal principles established during the Roman period provided a foundation for future European legal systems, while Roman architectural techniques continued to inform building practices in the Middle Ages. The Latin language evolved into the Romance languages, preserving a connection to the Roman heritage that would endure through the centuries. In retrospect, the fall of the Western Roman Empire can be seen as a watershed moment that reshaped the trajectory of European history. It served as a reminder of the complexities inherent in maintaining a vast and diverse empire, where internal strife and external pressures can conspire to precipitate decline. The lessons learned from Rome's fall echoed throughout history, influencing subsequent empires and nations as they navigated the challenges of governance, cultural integration, and societal cohesion. As the Western Roman Empire faded into history, the Eastern Roman Empire, or Byzantine Empire, emerged as a continuation of Roman legacy, preserving much of Roman law, culture, and administrative practices for centuries to come. The fall of the Western Roman Empire may have signaled the end of ancient Rome's dominance, but its enduring influence would continue to shape the course of European history, leaving an indelible mark on the development of Western civilization. Part 15. The Legacy of Augustus and the Roman Empire. The legacy of Augustus, the founder of the Roman Empire, is a multifaceted tapestry woven with political, cultural, and social threads that shaped not only the Roman world, but also the trajectory of Western civilization. His reign, which lasted from 27 BCE until his death in 14 CE, marked a turning point in Roman history, transitioning from a fractured republic plagued by civil war to a stable and enduring imperial system. This transformation set the stage for centuries of Roman dominance and left an indelible impact on subsequent generations, influencing governance, culture, and even religious thought. One of Augustus's most significant contributions was the establishment of a stable and centralized government, which he referred to as the Principate. This system allowed him to maintain the facade of republican traditions while consolidating power in a way that circumvented the failures of the late Republic. By skillfully balancing the roles of the Senate, the army, and the populace, Augustus created a political framework that enabled effective governance while limiting the chaos that had characterized the previous decades. His reforms established a model of leadership that would be emulated by future emperors and contributed to the longevity of the empire. Augustus's administrative reforms were pivotal in enhancing the efficiency and functionality of the Roman state. He reorganized provincial governance, dividing the empire into manageable units overseen by appointed governors who reported directly to him, ensuring loyalty and accountability. This restructuring improved tax collection and resource management, contributing to economic stability that fostered trade and prosperity across the empire. Additionally, Augustus initiated extensive infrastructure projects, including roads, aqueducts, and public buildings, which facilitated communication and commerce while also showcasing the grandeur of the imperial authority. Culturally, Augustus's reign ushered in what is often referred to as the Golden Age of Roman literature and arts. Under his patronage, poets such as Virgil, Horace, and Ovid flourished, producing works that celebrated Roman values, history, and mythology. The epic poem, the Aeneid, written by Virgil, served not only as a national epic, but also as a vehicle for Augustus's political propaganda, linking his reign to the legendary founding of Rome and emphasizing themes of duty, piety, and destiny. The arts became a tool for shaping public perception, reinforcing the notion of Augustus as a divinely sanctioned leader tasked with restoring order to the empire. Augustus also understood the importance of religion in legitimizing his rule, strategically aligning himself with traditional Roman beliefs while promoting a cult of personality that emphasized his divinity. By deifying Julius Caesar, Augustus created a powerful precedent for imperial divinity, positioning himself as a son of a god and thus deserving of reverence and loyalty from his subjects. This intertwining of politics and religion laid the groundwork for the complex relationship between the Roman state and religious institutions, a dynamic that would evolve significantly in the following centuries. The establishment of the Pax Romana, or Roman peace, was perhaps one of Augustus's most enduring legacies. This period of relative stability and prosperity lasted for over 2 centuries, allowing for cultural exchange, economic growth, and the expansion of trade networks across the Mediterranean and beyond. The reduced threat of civil war and external invasions fostered an environment where arts, literature, and philosophy could thrive, leaving a lasting imprint on Roman culture and identity. The Pax Romana not only solidified Augustus's status as a peacemaker, but also created a model for governance that prioritized stability and cohesion over expansionism. Despite his successes, Augustus's reign was not without its challenges and contradictions. The centralization of power often led to tensions with the Senate and the traditional Republican elite, as many viewed his consolidation of authority as a betrayal of Republican values. This tension between autocracy and republicanism would continue to be a defining feature of Roman political life, influencing the relationship between emperors and the Senate long after Augustus's death. Moreover, Augustus's efforts to promote traditional Roman morals and values through legislation aimed at encouraging family and social stability reflected his awareness of the societal changes that had emerged during the chaotic years of the Republic. His moral legislation often faced resistance, highlighting the complexities of navigating a society in transition. The legacy of Augustus also extended beyond the political and cultural realms into the realms of governance and military strategy. His approach to the military emphasized a professional standing army loyal to the emperor, contrasting with the earlier reliance on citizen soldiers drawn from the social elite. This shift not only improved military effectiveness, but also fostered a sense of loyalty to the emperor rather than to the republic, changing the dynamics of power within the empire. Future emperors would adopt this model, using military success and loyalty as a means of consolidating their authority and maintaining order throughout the empire. As the centuries passed, the figure of Augustus became emblematic of imperial authority and stability, influencing how later leaders perceived their role and responsibilities. The model of governance he established, combining elements of monarchy with republican traditions, provided a framework for subsequent emperors, many of whom sought to emulate his successes while avoiding his pitfalls. Augustus's reign set a precedent for the use of propaganda, cultural patronage, and religious legitimacy as tools of statecraft, shaping the nature of Roman imperial rule for generations to come. The impact of Augustus's legacy extended far beyond the borders of the empire, influencing subsequent political thought and governance across Europe and the Mediterranean. His reign became a reference point for later rulers seeking to establish their legitimacy and authority, serving as a model for kings and emperors throughout history. The notion of a divinely sanctioned ruler who brought peace and prosperity became a recurring theme in the narratives of many European monarchies, as leaders sought to draw parallels to Augustus's achievements to bolster their claims to power. In the broader context of history, Augustus's contributions to the development of the Roman Empire laid the groundwork for the subsequent evolution of Western civilization. The administrative, cultural, and military innovations that emerged during his reign continued to shape the institutions and practices of medieval and modern Europe. The enduring influence of Roman law, governance, and cultural achievements, all of which were significantly advanced during Augustus's time, reflects the lasting impact of his legacy on the development of Western legal and political systems. In conclusion, the legacy of Augustus as the founder of the Roman Empire is a profound testament to the complexities of leadership and governance in the face of change. His ability to navigate the turbulent waters of Roman politics, culture, and society not only secured his position but also laid the foundations for an empire that would endure for centuries. Augustus's achievements and the systems he established shaped the course of history, leaving an indelible mark on the Roman Empire and beyond. The legacy of Augustus continues to resonate today, reminding us of the enduring interplay between power, culture, and society in shaping the human experience. Thank you for joining us on this historical journey. We hope you enjoyed exploring the stories and legacies that shaped our world. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more captivating content. Share your thoughts in the comments, and we'll see you in the next video.